moment you change a rear tire or swap a sprocket on a Harley, the speedometer starts lying to you. Not by much, sometimes, a couple of miles per hour, but the lie is mechanical and it grows the more you modify the bike. A bigger rear tire makes the speedometer read slower than you are really going. A smaller tire does the opposite. The reason is simple. The speedometer does not measure speed directly. It counts pulses from a sensor on the transmission output shaft and converts them into miles per hour using a ratio that was locked in at the factory based on the stock tire and stock sprockets. Change either one, and the math the bike is doing no longer matches the road. The dealer charges about $150 to fix it. With a Power Vision tuner plugged into the diagnostic port under your seat, you scroll to the speedometer calibration screen, enter your new tire size or sprocket count, and save. 5 minutes. Or you wire in a Dakota Digital Sim 1A, a small box that sits between the speed sensor and the speedometer, with 2 buttons that nudge the reading up or down until your GPS and your dashboard finally agree. You twist the key one morning, the bike fires up, and the throttle feels dead. You roll on the gas, and it pulls like there is a parking brake dragging on the rear wheel. The dashboard might throw a check engine light. It might not say anything at all. What you are feeling is called limited performance mode, stored trouble code P1511. The most common cause is something almost embarrassingly small. You shut the bike off with the throttle slightly cracked open. The ECU saved that position as closed, and now it thinks you are already giving the engine some gas before you have even touched the grip. There is a recovery sequence built directly into the bike, and the dealer does not volunteer it. Kill switch on run. Cycle the ignition on for 5 seconds, off for 5 seconds, on for 5 seconds, off for 5 seconds. Repeat the full sequence 5 times. The ECU resets its closed throttle reference. The bike rides clean again. The owners who do not know this exists call a tow truck instead. The story Harley doesn't put in the owner's manual is that every bike with a turn signal security module, almost everything from the early 2000s onward with a factory alarm, left the dealer with the same 5-digit override code, 31313. You were supposed to change it after delivery. Most people never did. If your key fob dies in a parking lot 4 states from home, you can still disarm the bike with your hands. Turn the ignition to accessory. Press both turn signal switches at the same time. The red key icon on the dash starts flashing rapidly. Now you enter the code 1 digit at a time. Left turn signal 3 times to count up to 3. Right turn signal once to confirm. Left once. Right once. Left 3 more times. Right once. Left once. Right once. Left 3. Right once. The icon goes solid. The bike will start. If the previous owner did change the code and you don't know what they changed it to, the dealer charges somewhere between $200 and $400 to repair a new fob and reset the module. If the previous owner didn't change it, 31313 still works on most bikes from this era. Nobody tells you to check. Hit subscribe. It's the one factory default code on this list you'll actually want to keep. There's a check engine light on the dash. It came on this morning, halfway through a ride, and it hasn't gone off. The dealer wants $150 for what they call a diagnostic hookup, the cost of plugging their computer into the same port that's been sitting under your seat since the day you bought the bike. You don't need their computer. On every fuel-injected Harley built from 2004 onward, the gauge cluster is the computer. Ignition switch all the way off. Kill switch on run. Press and hold the trip odometer reset button on 2014 and newer touring bikes. That's the toggle switch on the left-hand grip. Keep holding it. Turn the ignition to on. The speedometer needle sweeps from 0 to its maximum. Every warning lamp lights up in sequence, and the word diag appears on the screen. Release the button. You're now inside the same diagnostic menu the dealer techs use. A short string of letters starts flashing one at a time. P, S, S, P, T. P is the engine control module. S is the security and turn signal module. SP is the speedometer. T is the tachometer. Tap the odometer button to move between them. Hold the button for 5 seconds to read the trouble code stored in whichever module is currently flashing. Hold it longer than 5 seconds to clear that code completely from the bike's memory. The same diagnostic information the dealer charges you to access through a piece of software most home users couldn't justify the cost of buying has just been replaced by the button you've been pressing your whole life to reset your trip miles. Between 1999 and 2006, Harley sold hundreds of thousands of bikes powered by an engine called the Twin Cam 88 and later the 96. Both engines came with a flaw the company quietly redesigned away in 2007 and almost never talked about publicly. Inside the cam chest, where the cam chains run, there are 2 plastic shoes that hold the chains tight against their sprockets. They are spring-loaded. They wear down. And when they wear down enough, they start shedding plastic into the engine's oil pump. Once that plastic reaches the pump, oil pressure begins to fall. Sometimes a bike with shedding tensioners runs fine for thousands more miles before the failure cascades. Sometimes it does not make it home. The owners who lost their engines almost always describe the same early warning, a faint rattling noise on cold starts that gradually became impossible to ignore. By the time it was impossible to ignore, the damage was usually already done. The check itself takes about an hour and costs $40 at an independent shop. They pull the outer cam cover, look at the shoes, and tell you whether they are chewed up or still smooth. If they are chewed up, the Harley upgrade kit that replaces them with the hydraulic tensioners introduced in 2007 runs around $260 to $500 in parts. The aftermarket gear drive conversion made by companies like S&S removes the chain system entirely and costs about $750. By every account, it is the last time those parts will ever fail. An engine replacement, if you wait too long, starts north of $4,000. Most owners of these years are never told the choice exists. The Milwaukee 8 engine, the one that replaced the twin cam on touring bikes in 2017, has its own quiet flaw, and Harley redesigned it away in almost exactly the same way they handled the twin cam. The oil pump is undersized. Specifically, the side of the pump that is supposed to suck oil back out of the bottom of the engine and return it to the tank does not move enough volume. Oil collects where it should not. The rotating flywheels whip it into a foam, and eventually that foam starts blowing out of the air intake. The symptoms are easy to confuse with normal wear, a little oil residue building up around the air cleaner, some loss of power on long highway runs, lifter noise that gets worse as the engine heats up. Harley issued a technical service bulletin through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, acknowledging the condition, but never recalled the affected bikes. The fix arrived quietly in the 2020 model year, when the company redesigned the pump and started installing the new one on every Milwaukee 8 rolling off the line. If your bike is a 2020 or newer, you already have the fix from the factory. If your bike is a 2017, 2018, or 2019, you do not, and Harley is not going to retrofit it for you. You can buy the 2020 spec pump and install it yourself for somewhere around $300 to $400 in parts. Aftermarket pumps from companies like S&S run up to about $700. Either way, the part you are replacing is the part Harley already replaced. They just stopped at the year the problem stopped costing them anything. The last trick on this list comes with stakes attached, and it is the one Harley dealers will quote you $1,200 or more to perform. For your money, the dealer locks you into a single fuel map, written for stock parts that you can never change again without paying for another flash. For $400, you can buy a Dynajet Power Vision PV4. For $300, a Vance and Hines Fuel Pack FP3. Both plug into the same diagnostic port under your seat. Both talk to the same engine control module. Both rewrite the fuel and ignition maps the bike runs on from the factory. The difference is what happens after the flash. Once you own the tuner, you can flash unlimited maps for the life of the bike. New exhaust, new intake, riding at altitude, switching fuel grades, swapping cams. Every change can get its own custom tune. Every tune happens in your garage, with the bike still warm, in about 15 minutes. The numbers depend on how far you go. An engine control unit flash on a stock Milwaukee 8 typically adds 5 to 12 horsepower at the rear wheel. Pair it with a free-flowing intake and an exhaust that does not choke at the headers, and dyno results consistently land between 15 and 20. Horsepower gained with around 18 pound-feet of torque added through the middle of the power band. The bike feels different from the first start after the flash. Sharper on the throttle, freer through the gears, harder hitting from a roll. The catch is the one part of this list you cannot undo. Every flash leaves a fingerprint inside the engine control unit. The factory checksum changes. Any Harley tech who plugs into the bike can see instantly that the engine control module has been modified. From that moment forward, your powertrain warranty exists at the dealer's discretion. They can honor it. They often choose not to. What you are trading is real horsepower against the manufacturer's safety net for the first 60,000 miles or 5 years, whichever expires first. Some riders do it the day they ride the bike out of the showroom. Some never touch it. The bike does not care which one you are. It just runs better.